Have you ever felt paralyzed by fear? That cold feeling, that knot in your stomach that prevents you from taking the next step, making that crucial decision, or even starting something new that you've been dreaming of for so long. It's as if an invisible prison closes around you, sucking your energy and your courage. Fear is a primal force, powerful and sometimes overwhelming. It manifests in countless ways in our lives. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of the unknown, the fear of not being good enough. It can dictate your choices, limit your potential, and ultimately prevent you from living the life you truly desire. Think of something you stopped doing because of fear. That delayed project, that difficult conversation that never happened, that shelved dream. Can you feel the weight of it? Now, imagine living your childhood and youth under the constant shadow of this fear. This was the reality of Minamoto no Yoshitsune. From a very young age, he was separated from his family, thrown into a distant temple, living as a reclusive monk, stripped of his name and his heritage. Each day was a journey into uncertainty, a struggle against the constant threat of his enemies and his own loneliness. Can you imagine the size of that threat? The weight of uncertainty hanging over every moment? He wasn't born without fear. He wasn't immune to apprehension. But what did he do differently? How did he manage to not only survive but overcome this internal prison, this constant threat that hung over his existence? And more importantly, how can this same ancestral strategy be the key you need to master fear in your own life today? Prepare to unravel the secrets of one of the most brilliant minds of feudal Japan. But before we continue this transformative journey, if you identify with this feeling of fear or are seeking the wisdom to overcome it, I invite you, leave your like on this video and subscribe to the channel Samurai Wisdom, the voice of Yoshitsune. That way, you won't miss any lesson that could change your perspective. In the previous segment, you felt the weight of fear and how it can paralyze. Now let's delve into the origin of Yoshitsune's strength and where your own resilience can begin. Can you imagine being exiled as a child, without a name, without a certain future, and with the weight of a disgraced family on your shoulders? This was Yoshitsune's reality after the defeat of the Minamoto clan. A child forced to live as a monk in Kurama, far from the world he knew, far from the battlefields that were the destiny of a warrior of his lineage. His youth, far from any comfort, was a period of rigorous training, not only physical, but mental. He learned to bow to discipline, to master not only martial arts, but also his own mind. Many would have fled from the difficulty, would have given in to despair. But Yoshitsune, he embraced this phase. He saw exile not as a punishment, but as a forge where his will, his discipline, and his resilience would be molded. This is where a fascinating curiosity that few know comes in, the legend of his training with the Tengu. It is said that Yoshitsune in Kurama did not only learn from the monks, he was secretly trained by mystical beings from the mountains, the Tengu, masters of martial arts and strategy. This legend, whether you believe it or not, symbolizes something profound. Even in his isolation, Yoshitsune sought knowledge beyond the ordinary. He sought the most demanding masters, the most difficult lessons, transforming what seemed like an end into a new beginning. This phase of Yoshitsune's life invites you to a deep reflection. How do you transform your own exiles into opportunities for growth? Perhaps you are not in a monastery in the mountains, but have you gone through a period of isolation, a phase of uncertainty in your career, a time when you felt distant from your goals, that job that didn't work out, the project that failed, or even a time of self-isolation to reassess? Yoshitsune's lesson here is clear. Isolation doesn't have to be an end, but rather a period of intense preparation. It's a time for you to sharpen your skills, to dive into your self-knowledge, to develop the discipline that the outside world doesn't always allow. He didn't give in to despair. He prepared. He didn't wait for an opportunity. He became the opportunity. Think about your own journey. What are your exiles? Those difficult moments, those periods of uncertainty. Do you see them as insurmountable obstacles, or as your own personal forge, where your resilience is being molded? The choice of how you will face this phase is yours, and by understanding how Yoshitsune transformed his, you are one step closer to discovering the true source of your own strength. In the previous segment, you discovered how Yoshitsune's exile was a forge for his resilience. Now, let's see how this resilience turned into a strategic weapon capable of turning the tide in the most desperate situations. Have you ever faced a problem so complex that it seemed to have no solution? That situation where all doors seem closed and chaos reigns absolute. It was in battles like Ichi no Tani that Yoshitsune's genius shone. Imagine the scene. On one side, the invincible fortress of the Genji, protected by steep cliffs that descended to the sea. On the other, the ocean. An overwhelming disadvantage, a situation where any other commander would only see insurmountable obstacles. The common mind would surrender to chaos, would be blinded by the fear of defeat. But Yoshitsune, he not only mastered the sword, he mastered the mind. He saw possibilities where others saw only dead ends. While his generals hesitated, seeing only the impossible, Yoshitsune conceived one of the most audacious maneuvers in military history, the flank attack through the Hyodorigo slope. A descent so steep that it was considered impassable, even for pedestrians. He was not intimidated. The curiosity here, which you may not know, is that he tested this descent with wild horses, proving that it was possible. This is the essence of his strategic vision. He did not accept the limitations imposed by common perception. Think about your own life. What is your blind spot that fear creates in your plans? That obvious solution that you don't see because your mind is fixed on the obstacles. Yoshitsune teaches us that true strategy is not just about brute force, but about mental flexibility and the ability to question what is given as impossible. It's about looking at the problem from a completely different angle, finding the impassable route that no one else would dare to consider. The lesson for you is clear. Effective planning begins where fear ends. When you allow yourself to see beyond the obvious, when you question the limitations that your mind imposes, that's when the most creative and impactful solutions arise. Yoshitsune's strategy is not only for battlefields, it's for your life, for your work, for your personal challenges. So, how are you planning your next steps? Are you allowing yourself to see the impossible routes, the solutions that fear hides? Yoshitsune's wisdom challenges you to look at your own chaos and find your Hyodorigo slope. Are you ready to go beyond the obvious and chart a path that no one expected? You've seen how Yoshitsune turned exile into resilience and chaos into strategy. But there's a crucial element behind all his victories: an unwavering confidence in himself and his vision. This wasn't recklessness, but a faith so deep that it infected everyone around him. It's time for you to ask yourself, what do you truly believe is possible for your own life? Yoshitsune's courage was legendary, but his true strength lay in the certainty of his purpose. He didn't hesitate to make bold decisions because he had an inner clarity about what needed to be done and a deep belief in his abilities. He didn't just give orders. He led by example, putting himself on the front line, inspiring his men to follow a leader who, they knew, believed in victory as much as they did. This loyalty wasn't imposed, it was earned. In a world where doubt and uncertainty were constant, Yoshitsune's conviction was an anchor. Think of the Battle of Dan no Ura, the final and decisive naval battle of the Genpei Wars. The odds were, again against the Minamoto. However, Yoshitsune's confidence, his ability to inspire his warriors, and the faith he conveyed were crucial to turning the tide of the battle. And here's a fascinating curiosity about his leadership. Yoshitsune was known for not being the most physically imposing warrior, but his strategic mind and charismatic presence made up for it. His small stature compared to other samurai didn't stop him from having a gigantic stature in terms of confidence and leadership. This shows you that true strength isn't just about what you are externally, but what you believe internally. Now, bring this lesson into your life. When you face a new challenge, a complex project, or an important decision, what is your first reaction? Do you give in to doubt, or do you nurture the certainty that you are capable? Yoshitsune's lesson is that your self-confidence is the foundation of all your actions. It's what drives you to seek the solution, to innovate, to persist when others would give up. Remember, Yoshitsune's courage wasn't the absence of fear, but overcoming it through unwavering faith. And that same faith is available to you. What do you truly believe is possible for you? Your answer to that question is the first step towards your next great victory. You've seen Yoshitsune's resilience and his ability to plan with confidence. But what about when the enemy isn't on the battlefield, but within your own ranks? Have you ever felt the weight of injustice or ingratitude after giving your best, after dedicating yourself body and soul to something or someone? That bitter feeling of being betrayed, of having your worth questioned even after glorious victories. After leading the Minamoto to overwhelming victories against the Taira clan, consolidating the power of his brother Yoritomo, Yoshitsune did not receive the honor and recognition he deserved. On the contrary, a growing distrust, fueled by intrigue and envy, transformed his relationship with his own brother into a relentless persecution. Yoshitsune, the hero who secured his family's future, was declared a public enemy. Imagine the pain and confusion. To be rejected by those you helped the most, to have your loyalty questioned by those who should trust you above all else. This was Yoshitsune's terrible reality. He didn't just fight against external enemies, he fought an internal battle against bitterness, disappointment, and the temptation to give in to despair. And here's a curiosity that reveals the depth of his character. Even in the face of Yoritomo's betrayal, Yoshitsune never renounced his loyalty to the Minamoto family. His honor and sense of duty were greater than his personal pain. He sought refuge in distant places, like the Mutsu province, with the help of Fujiwara no Hidehira, but his mind was always focused on what was right, not on petty revenge. The lesson for you is powerful. How you deal with betrayal and injustice defines your inner strength. It's not what happens to you that matters, but how you react to it. Yoshitsune teaches us that even when the world seems against you, when ingratitude strikes you, you have the power to choose not to let yourself be consumed by bitterness. You can maintain your integrity, your honor, and seek a new path. So when injustice knocks on your door, how will you respond? Will you allow it to break you, or will you use that adversity to forge an even greater inner strength? Yoshitsune's journey is a vivid reminder that your ability to move forward, even when the world turns its back on you, is your greatest victory. You have followed Yoshitsune through fear, exile, strategy, and betrayal. But although his life was short and, in its end, tragic, the name of Minamoto no Yoshitsune echoes through the centuries, an immortal symbol of bravery, genius, and honor. How do you wish to be remembered? What are your daily actions building for your story, for your own legacy? Yoshitsune's legacy was not defined by his losses or the tragic end of his life. No, it was shaped by the way he lived and fought. Every bold decision, every act of courage, every demonstration of loyalty, all of this added up to create a legendary figure. Even in the final defeat, he maintained his dignity, refusing to live a life without honor. He chose how he wanted to live, and that choice echoed for centuries. And here is a curiosity that reveals the enduring power of his legacy. Even centuries after his death, in the Edo period, Yoshitsune was such a revered figure that his stories inspired kabuki theater, plays, legends, and folktales. He became an archetype of the ideal warrior, of resilience and genius, an almost mythical figure that transcended historical reality. His name is remembered not for his death, but for the extraordinary life he forged. Yoshitsune's lesson for you is profound and timeless. Your legacy is not something you build only at the end of your life, but rather every day. Every small act of kindness, every time you demonstrate integrity, every challenge you overcome, every lesson you share. All of this is brick by brick in the construction of the story you will leave behind. So I ask you, what are your daily actions saying about who you are and about the impact you wish to have? How do you wish to be remembered by those who come after you? Yoshitsune's life is a powerful reminder that true immortality is not in not dying, but in living in a way that your story, your lessons, and your spirit continue to inspire long after you are gone. You have journeyed a remarkable path alongside Minamoto no Yoshitsune. You have seen how he, from the challenges of exile, forged an unbreakable resilience. You have witnessed his strategic vision that turned the impossible into reality, seeing solutions where others saw only obstacles. You have felt the strength of his unwavering confidence, which inspired loyalty and overcame doubt with the certainty of purpose. And you have reflected on how he dealt with betrayal and injustice, maintaining honor and inner strength even when the world seemed to crumble. Yoshitsune's life, although distant in time, is not just a fascinating samurai story. It is a manual of courage for your life today. Every obstacle he faced and overcame, every lesson he left us, is a mirror for the challenges you encounter daily. The anxiety before a big decision, the discouragement in the face of a setback, the doubt about your own abilities, the pain of disillusionment. The crucial question now is not what Yoshitsune did, but what will you do with this wisdom? His strategy is not just history, it is a powerful tool at your disposal. Are you ready to apply these lessons in your own journey? To master the fear that prevents you from reaching your maximum potential? The choice, as always, is yours. Remember, fear can be a constant shadow, but you, like Yoshitsune, have the ability to rise and face it. It's not about not having fear, but about acting despite it. Use resilience to overcome falls, strategy to see beyond the obvious, self-confidence to believe in your own power, and inner strength to maintain your honor even in the face of injustice. Your personal journey of overcoming is just beginning. With every challenge, every uncertainty, Yoshitsune's voice whispers in your ear, you are capable of transcending. If this message touched you and ignited a flame of courage in your heart, I invite you to take the next step. Leave your like on this video so that more people can be inspired by this wisdom. Subscribe to the channel Samurai Wisdom, the voice of Yoshitsune, and activate the bell so you don't miss any of the next lessons. And tell me in the comments, which lesson from Yoshitsune resonated most with you today? Or perhaps, which challenge are you ready to master with this new perspective?